Welcome back. This is Don Emmett from the Money and More Show, the small insights of the Triangle Edition. And we're here today with Linda Lakin of Pulse Health and Wellness, based here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And welcome, Linda. Thank you for coming into the show.
Thank you for inviting me. It's good to be here.
Great stuff, great stuff. Linda, why don't you start us off by telling us a little bit about Pulse Health and Wellness and a little bit of the history and how you got to where you are.
Sure. I love to talk about my business. I think it's one of the top secrets of the entrepreneur. We began Pulse Health and Wellness 16 years ago, right here in Chapel Hill. We had an idea that there was an opportunity to talk to the healthcare community about food the way that the pharmaceutical companies were talking about drugs. And by that I mean going to those healthcare professionals and sharing information about healthy food products with them, and in turn garnering their recommendation, their tacit recommendation, to deliver that message to consumers, to their patients and clients. And that was the fundamental structure of our business. Obviously it's evolved over the last 16 years because the whole health and wellness environment has changed.
Sure.
And now our base of health and wellness influencers goes well beyond that of the healthcare professional. So now in our proprietary network that we've built over the last few years, we have included personal trainers and dietitians and nutritionists and doulas and midwives and anyone who is having an interaction with a consumer at a teachable touch point. That's when we're able to bring in a branded message from a food manufacturer. So essentially our clients hire us to deliver branded messages to consumers through our proprietary network of health influencers.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Can you give us an example of maybe a typical engagement? I know you deal with some Fortune 500, 100 companies, and
well, that's
some household brand names, and how do you implement your?
Well, that's a great question. So one of the examples I'll use is a program we did for Stonyfield Farms yogurt, which, as you know, is an organic yogurt. Gary Hirschberg is very prominent in the natural and organic space. He founded the company. And they wanted to be in the pediatric space. They wanted to own the space. Their message was yogurt is an appropriate first food for babies. And this was a little bit contrary to what the current thinking was among pediatricians and among other pediatric professionals, because they say you should stay away from milk for the first year. Okay. But there was and is science that suggests that because of the cultures in yogurt, it's an appropriate first food. So we created a program for Stonyfield that talks to mom, that is delivered through the pediatric healthcare professional, that reassures mom that yogurt is a fantastic first food. It's consistent with the American Academy of Pediatrics guidelines. We talk about organic and the benefits of organic foods to babies. And essentially it takes a form of as a little booklet called the First Foods Handbook. And we've printed millions of them, and they're going out to pediatricians throughout the country to be shared with mom at that 6-month well baby visit. So we establish the need, which is the 6-month well baby visit, and then we supply the health influencer with the tools to make it happen at that point.
So is it fair to say that your endeavor or your mission, project, is to influence the influencer?
exactly. We arm the influencer with the information they need. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
What's different about what we do, and influencing is a you know, almost a profession unto itself these days. But what we do is offer our clients a face-to-face interaction with the consumer, so that you know, there's a lot of digital activity going on, and when we talk about influence, we talk about bloggers and things like that. In our case, it's being able to deliver that brand message through that one-on-one,
Okay.
face-to-face.
Much like-
Exactly,
which
just
is-
like you and I are talking right now.
Which is, in our digital society, in the world that's been created in the past 10 to 15 years, it's something that you can say that we're somewhat losing touch with, the one-to-one, the social interaction.
You're absolutely right, and there's so much talk about digital, and you know, it's less expensive, it's you know, it has much broader reach, but the actual effectiveness of that face-to-face interaction just isn't matched in any other way. If you're having a conversation with somebody, it's way more powerful than anything else that you could possibly do, including television advertising and everything else. So that's where we live. That's our little niche, if you will.
I can see, you know, to break through the noise that we're all surrounded with in our day-to-day lives, and you know, for me in my business, my best interaction is generally one-on-one with a client, a potential client, and or a word-of-mouth recommendation from a trusted source, a strategic partner. So I can understand that completely.
Exactly, and there are a couple of factors that support this even more. The International Food Information Council published a study in late 2014 that demonstrated that consumers trust health influencers the most of any other kind of influence. And if they gave, you know, charts full of digital and magazine and television and everything else, and the one key factor was that even if you rolled up all of those other outlets or channels, they did not come close to the trust that the health influencer has with the consumer. If you think about it, it makes absolute sense. You choose your personal trainer, you choose your doctor, you choose your dietitian, you choose your doula, you know.
For a reason. Yeah.
For a reason. The other key insight, which fascinated me when I learned it, was that new mom, who is a millennial mom, who is very internet savvy, and one would assume she gets all of her information from the internet. When it comes to new baby and new mom goes to the doctor. So companies that are trying to reach new mom digitally are not going to be nearly as effective as leveraging that face-to-face interaction with mom.
With a trusted professional, a trusted
Right.
influence dispenser.
Yes.
So I gather over the 16 years
16 years.
that you've been in business, that the model has changed to arrive at where you are. What, if anything, might you have done looking back differently, as if you had a time machine, or talking to Linda 16 years ago, what might you have said to her?
Wow, that's an interesting question. What would we have done differently? You know, I think that probably had time and resources been infinite, we would have had a bigger sales team out there talking about what we do. There are just a few of us at Pulse who do this, and our close rate is fantastic, but it's a question of volume, right? And I think that I mean, we do very well, but I think that I definitely would have put more emphasis on sales.
And your business is kind of based on leverage to an extent, so you can only, for your clients, you can only talk to so many people yourself, so you've leveraged your business with your proprietary network. But also you need to, I guess, leverage your sales, your
Yeah,
your own sales and marketing
The leverage, the network grows organically, and we constantly, recruit to our network. We've just rebranded the network. It used to be called the HCP network, we now call it Pulse Connect. And the idea behind that is that we are obviously connecting brands with consumers through our Pulse Connect collective of health influencers. We've broadened the scope of the health influencer, the kind of health influencer that we are looking to speak with or have as a member of our collective. And that's all very effective. There are new kinds of health influencers out there that didn't even exist 15 years ago or 16 years ago, like a sports nutrition dietitian, which is really cool. So these are people who are going into gyms and talking to people in a gym about health and wellness and nutrition and sports nutrition. So yes, the network grows. Our business development process is completely based on relationships, as anybody's business development process is. I happen to have come out of a consumer packaged goods environment. I worked at Ogilvy and Mather for many years. And, I leveraged that expertise in talking with clients. And we work now with many of the Fortune 500 companies. We work with Kellogg's, we've worked with Unilever, and we do work with Walmart, we do work with Del Monte, but we also work with those emerging brands that are coming up, the upstart brands that all the big companies are following to see, hey, how are they doing it, how are they interrupting our business?
And or a lot of times it looks like acquiring.
Correct. That is definitely their strategy. Yeah.
So in most, small to medium-sized businesses, there's in the gestation period or as it grows, there's a time or period when you knew that I think this is going to work or this is going to be successful. Was there an event or a time or a client where you said, I think this is going to work. I think this is going to be successful.
Yeah, and that client was Kellogg's.
Okay.
They were one of our first clients, and then they became a very important part of our business. We worked on several programs with them in 2007 and 8 and 9. We ran a program for them called Healthy Beginnings, which was a retail health and wellness program that ran in, I think, 64 different retailers across the country. It was a huge job, huge job. Ran for 3 years. We knew then that was happening. And then the Kashi business, once Kellogg's acquired that, came our way as well. And then we kind of thought, okay, we can do this. It's going to work.
Good stuff. In terms of your own organization and people that work for Pulse, so what's your strategy or policies or plans for attracting and retaining high-quality people to work at Pulse?
When I was coming up, through the business world, one of my biggest challenges was finding an employer who could offer me the flexibility I needed when I was raising my family. That is one of the key characteristics of life at Pulse. We're very flexible. We hire people who we can trust to get the job done, whether or not they're sitting in an office. We work remotely, we work in an office, we work, wherever we want. In terms of, and that's worked very well for us, actually. All of our employees have been with us for 5 years or more.
Okay, wow.
We've just hired our newest person, and he's a Duke grad who was looking for an untraditional kind of, business environment. So we're very hopeful. We don't have much turnover, which is great because it's very disruptive.
Yeah, much like, the cost of, customer acquisition is one of the highest costs for most businesses, and it's much easier to retain your existing customers and to grow the business
Exactly.
than conversely, with employees who are somewhat customers or should be treated as good or better than customers. The cost of turnover is huge. So the ability to attract, retain, and motivate
And grow.
and grow with it.
And give everybody something new to do, and, that's the great thing about business these days, I think. There's always something new coming up that we can explore. I know we've spent the last 3 weeks just looking at all the kinds of technology, and not really technology, but just, skills that people have out there that are affordable, that you can use to promote your business digitally and, in a unique way. I think there's so much out there that everybody can thrive and find something that they like to do that fits within the greater whole of Pulse Health and Wellness.
So in terms of growth strategies for the company, is it just incremental, organic growth? Is it potential acquisition at some point? What's your strategy for the next 5 years or thereabouts?
We have a 3-year plan.
Okay.
That we're halfway through. So the 3-year plan was to grow the revenues significantly, to grow the company significantly. And I have to say, after we put our minds to it, we grew about 50% last year. So that was very exciting for us, and we're on track to do the same this year.
Spectacular.
Yes, ultimately our goal is an acquisition. We would like to be able to tap into the resources of a bigger company, as I started out by saying. Someone with a sales force or relationships broader than our own. I think that's all it would take, because this power of the face-to-face interaction, the power of the health influencer, the power of our model is undeniable. And it's just a matter of getting that message out more and into the hands and, into the ears of the right people.
Yeah, I think I think smart marketers, you have to be operating in many different dimensions and categories, and you got to have your digital strategy and people strategy, but I think it's undeniable that I think as we move forward that people will realize, I think, that the face-to-face is how effective it is, and it's strategy that you need to have in your portfolio of marketing tools.
Absolutely, and I think you've just touched on another really interesting point. Like, we don't believe that we are the only way to sell a product, but we do believe that we are an absolutely integral part of any marketing mix, right? Like, we were just talking the other day about a company that's launched a Better For You cracker, and they are not in that healthy snack space. They've never been there, so they're there now, and they've done some preliminary marketing. And what we believe is that we can offer them credibility and trust with the health influencer that's going to communicate and filter down to the consumer through that health influencer. So a lot of products that are coming on the market, may not have the bona fides that they need to have for the consumer to embrace them and use them and try them. And that's part of what the health influencer can provide. So, not saying it's the only way to go, but it is an absolutely imperative part of the mix.
But and I think another point that any marketer should be cognizant of is to have their messages complementing each other, and having the digital strategy and people and your various tools in your toolbox talking to one another, and having a complementary message and going to market together.
Exactly, and that's how we believe
And
we're going to continue to be successful.
And see one, effort, complementing and reinforcing another. And I think that's that's a smart way to go to business.
Yeah, and that's how everybody's doing business.
So, in terms of your development as a business person and business owner, can you look back at mentors or people that, what's the best piece of business advice that maybe that you were given or that you can remember or
Well,
credo that you live by?
there's a wonderful man who lives in Florida now. His name is Lee Hill, and he owned an agency in Chicago. And he was just a fantastic guy, and he came in as a consultant to help us probably about 10 years ago now. And his enthusiasm was really what struck me as just, it was incomparable. It was fantastic. And one of the things that he said to me, which has proven to be true, is that you have to have an advocate in the company. You have to have somebody on the inside of a client, at the client, who is going to be your advocate. Because there's so much that's going on that you don't know about, and that person in the company will know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty important advice. That followed with, when you're trying to reach people, it's not because they're ignoring you, it's because they have other things to do. And while they are your priority, you are not their priority. That's a sales thing, but it's very hard to remember that every day.
But that also follows with your business model. You know, you're influencing an influencer,
Right.
winning over an influencer within your client, and then having them help spread your message to either the higher ups or
Exactly.
or lower ups, and say,
Exactly.
we got to take a look at these people at Pulse, and
Exactly. They have something to offer, something valuable to offer.
and the flip side of that coin, somewhat. New entrepreneurs starting out, or people thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or starting a business, what advice would you give to a budding entrepreneur or someone looking to start a business today?
Well, it's funny, those same two kids that I was trying to raise while I was working for somebody else are now both entrepreneurs here in the Raleigh-Durham area. And I think the advice I've given to them is, as an entrepreneur, you can control your own life. And if you're working for someone else, regardless of what you're doing, you don't have that control. So while the ups and downs and uncertainties of being an entrepreneur are nerve-wracking, they also provide you with the only kind of security really that you're ever going to have. Real, true security, because to thine own self be true. That was another great piece of advice that was given to me by Bill Blackman. He said, invest in yourself, because that's where you're going to find the greatest return.
That's got to be very satisfying to you. And I have teenagers myself, and as they get ready, college prep and go on to college, and in our society, to a large extent, I think it's changing as entrepreneurship becomes more cool. And historically, when I was coming of age, the mindset in our, particularly our parents of the Depression era parents is, get a good education and get a good job. And
Right.
and that world today, I don't know any of my friends, having been an entrepreneur myself for the past 30 years, I don't know any of my friends that took the corporate road that,
Are still there.
or had an event at some point.
Right.
If you don't have a plan, you're part of someone else's plan.
Exactly.
And someone else's plan, you might get a new vice president of something or other, and he wants to bring in their own team, and suddenly you have a...
You're not important anymore.
And you're not in control.
You're not in control. And that happened to me, it happened to our family, it happened, unfortunately, we had the resources and wherewithal to start our own business. And it hasn't been easy. I think anybody who has started a business will tell you it's just been a dream.
It's not for everyone.
And you're right, it is not for everyone, but, you know, if you have an inkling, you know, go for it. I mean, and try it while you're young, because then there's nothing at stake except, you know,
But
some money.
generally, it's in our society, I think it is, it's likely you're not going to get wealthy, for the most part, working for someone else.
Correct.
In our society, if you want to achieve wealth and security, it's generally going to be in, you know, some sort of business ownership endeavor, and I think that's a great message to get out.
I think that's a great message too, and I think the whole work-life balance thing is really critical and certainly top of mind with millennials. They don't want to be working 60 hours a week. I mean, I'm sure there are some who are in Manhattan, working on Wall Street who want to do that, but
Becoming less.
you know, it is becoming less. So acquisition of wealth is becoming less important, and acquisition of a balanced lifestyle is becoming more important. And I think that will make the world a better place, I hope.
Great stuff. Appreciate you coming in and chatting with us. Linda, why don't you tell us if any of our listeners want to get in touch with you, or send you an email, or just in your
Sure.
kind of brand marketing?
Thank you. You can reach us at pulsehw.com, that's our website. My email is lindal@pulsehw.com. We're right here in downtown Chapel Hill on Rosemary Street, and you know, we service clients all over the country. So if you are one or know one, please give us a call.
Good stuff. Thank you very much for,
Thank
for
you.
coming.
That was
and,
fun.
and thank you for listening to this edition of Money and More, the Small Business Insights of Triangle. I'm Don Emmett from Entrust Associates, and you can reach me at entrustassociates.com. And enjoy the rest of your day.